Hello, government students. Today we're going to talk about the process by which a bill becomes a law, the journey of a bill, that is, and we've got a lot to cover today, so let's get started. First of all, how is a bill introduced? Well, a bill can come from many sources. For example, individual citizens like you or I could actually compose a bill and send it to a congressman. Special interest groups can produce a bill, say the lobby for the oil and gas industry or the lobby for the environmental groups, that sort of thing. And they do write up a bunch of bills and submit them to Congress. Corporations can write up a bill. But the important thing to remember is that only a member of Congress can formally introduce the bill. So if any of these special groups or individuals do write up a bill, they have to get it to a member of Congress, and that member of Congress then has to submit it. A bill can start in either chamber, and this is important to know. It can start in either the House of Representatives or the Senate. For the purposes of this presentation, we're going to assume the bill is going to start in the House of Representatives, but do keep in mind a bill can start in either chamber. If it starts in the Senate, the bill will always be given a number, and that number will have an S before it, standing of course for Senate. If the bill starts in the House, it will be given a number that begins with an HR. You might think that stands for House of Representatives, but it does not. The HR actually stands for House Resolution. So you'll have a number like S1002 or HR 1357, and those are how the bills are going to be numbered. Okay, moving on. The bill is going to be assigned ultimately to a committee. So what happens is new bills are put in something kind of like a mailbox. It's called the hopper, and all the bills that are dropped into the hopper will be retrieved and then assigned to the appropriate standing committee, those permanent committees like the Agricultural Committee or Armed Services Committee, those types of committees. And of course it will be assigned to the committee based on the subject matter of the bill. The committee will have a chairman, and the chair is always from the majority party. That is, so you will have a certain number of Democrats in the committee, a certain number of Republicans, and if the Democrats are in the majority, then the chair of the committee will be a Democrat, and then the ranking member, the person who has the most seniority on the committee from the minority party, will be called the ranking member. Okay, so these committee chairmen get their jobs based on their seniority. And again, the member of the majority party will be the chairman, and the member of the minority party will be the ranking member. And in the committee, they will mark up or edit the bill so that it will be more likely to pass muster once it's put up for a vote on the floor of the entire House or the floor of the entire Senate. The committee also has the option to kill the bill, and when a committee kills a bill, it's called pigeonholing it. So when you pigeonhole a bill, that bill has died in committee and it will never get a vote from the full House or Senate. Okay, moving on. If the bill gets through the committee process, it will be reported to the floor. So here's the way that works. The committee reports the bill favorably to the floor, meaning that it has passed the committee. Now it's ready to be debated by the full House or Senate. Now, in the House of Representatives, we have the Rules Committee. This does not exist in the Senate. In the House, there is this additional step where the bill has to go through the Rules Committee. The Rules Committee determines which bills will actually be discussed on the full floor of the House and how long that discussion will take place. They'll set the rules saying how many people can actually speak to the bill, how long will they have to speak when they're standing on the podium. Many bills will be killed by the Rules Committee. So the chairman of the Rules Committee is always a close ally of the Speaker of the House. And if the Speaker of the House does not want this bill to be debated on the floor, even though it got through the standing committee, the Rules Committee can still kill that bill. Okay, so let's assume it gets through the Rules Committee. In the House of Representatives, sometimes bills can skip a standing committee entirely. And when this happens, it's said that the House is going to consider the bill as the committee of the whole. And what happens in this case, this would be when it's a really important bill that needs to get through the process quickly. The Speaker of the House can call the committee of the whole to debate the bill. The bill skips that whole standing committee and rules committee process, and this enables the bill to get considered very, very quickly. This happened, for example, when COVID struck, and it seemed to be very, very important to get some financial help to the American people who all of a sudden were losing their jobs due to COVID. It was felt that in order to avoid a severe recession or depression, we needed to get some fiscal action taken very, very quickly. So the Speaker convened the committee of the whole to get the relief package from COVID passed very, very quickly. Votes in the House are typically done electronically, but sometimes it'll be by a voice vote where everyone says yay or nay, and this is true in the Senate as well. And let's assume then that the bill gets through the first chamber. Then it's got to go to the other chamber. So if we start it in the House, we get it approved in the House, now the bill has to go to the Senate. And it will go to the appropriate standing committee of either the House or the Senate. So if it started out as an agricultural bill in the House, it will go to the Agricultural Committee in the Senate as well. The committees will hold hearings, and they can make changes to the bill. So the bill comes from the House of Representatives in one form, it goes to a committee in the Senate, and they can make changes to it. Normally this doesn't happen. Usually when the other chamber receives a bill, they'll go ahead and accept it as it was originally written, but there's no rule that says they have to. They can make changes to it. And once it gets through the committee process in the second chamber, they too will report the bill favorably to the floor of the appropriate chamber for debate. And here's what's going to happen when the bill is debated and voted on again. First of all, remember, in the Senate, it is the majority leader who decides which bills are going to be considered. It's the majority leader of the Senate who has the real political power, not the president of the Senate, not the president pro tem, but the majority leader. Debate in the Senate is unlimited, remember that. So you can filibuster the bill, and filibusters will be used to block bills. And virtually every single bill in the Senate that has any kind of controversy or, partisanship involved at all will be filibustered. And it takes that 60-vote cloture vote or 60% cloture vote to end the filibuster. If you cannot get 60% of the senators to vote for cloture on a bill, the bill will die in the Senate. And remember, there's only 100 senators, so that means you have to have a supermajority of 60% to get anything passed in the Senate. And for this reason, there's a lot less passed in the Senate than there is in the House of Representatives. Assuming you do get the cloture vote, then the Senate will do the formal vote to pass the bill, and then it only takes 51%. But again, really in the Senate it takes 60% because the bill will go nowhere without cloture. Okay, moving on. Assuming that the bill started in the House, and then it was passed and went to the Senate, and the Senate Standing Committee made changes to the bill, now we have two different versions of the bill. They're not the same. So we have to rectify that. The House and Senate versions of a bill must be the same. So what will happen in this case is that the bill will go to a conference committee, which is made up of both House members and Senate members. And the purpose of that conference committee is to negotiate and revise the bill in such a way that it can be passed by both chambers identically. Most bills, again, I want to stress, do not have to go through this conference committee process, but some do, especially bills that involve a lot of spending. Those are the types of bills that have to go to conference, and especially if you have a majority party in control of one chamber of Congress and a different party in charge of the other chamber, that's the kind of situation where you might get a conference committee requirement. And then once the conference committee comes up with its changes that are acceptable to everyone on that committee, there will be a vote on the conference report, and that vote must be taken again in both chambers because, again, the bill that was approved is not the same as the bill that comes out of the conference committee. So the chambers will have to vote again on the bill. Okay, so once both chambers have approved the bill, then it's got to go to the President of the United States for his signature. So the President can sign the bill right away if he wants it to become a law, and as soon as that signature is on the bill by the President, then it is law. However, sometimes a president, in fact, perhaps most of the time, a president might include a signing statement which says how the law will be enforced. Signing statements are really pretty controversial. And sometimes the president will state how he intends to interpret this bill or enforce the bill differently than how the Congress intended him to interpret or enforce the bill. And so these signing statements are rather controversial, but they are something that happens quite frequently. And for what it's worth, there's nothing that Congress can do about it. Of course, the president can also veto the bill. In order to veto the bill, he returns the bill unsigned to the original chamber. At this point, the bill probably dies. Very few times will a veto ever be overridden. And the president, by the way, when he does send it back to the original chamber, he is to state the reasons that he's objecting to the bill. If the president does nothing, he doesn't send it back, that is, he doesn't veto it, and Congress is in session, that bill will become law after 10 days. And that can happen occasionally. If the president knows that his veto might be overridden, he may choose not to sign it if he doesn't like the bill, but he doesn't want to experience the humiliation, perhaps, of having a veto overridden, and we'll get into that here in just a second. If Congress is not in session and the president does nothing, then the bill will die after 10 days, and that's called a pocket veto. So in a controversial situation, it's unlikely that Congress will send the president a bill close to the time when Congress convenes for vacation, because they don't want to give the president the opportunity to do a pocket veto on a controversial bill that the president may not like. Okay, so how does the bill become law? Well, first of all, if the president vetoes the bill, Congress can override the veto. How is that done? 2/3, or 67%, of both chambers must vote to override the veto. And what that means is 2/3 of the House of Representatives must agree to override it, and 2/3 of the Senate must agree to override it. That's extremely difficult to get that kind of vote. I believe in all of Donald Trump's 4 years in office, that happened only once on a defense authorization bill, but only once in 4 years, and it probably happened 2 or 3 times in the 8 years that Obama was president. If the president signs the bill, it becomes federal law, and in that case, everyone must follow it. Likewise, if the veto is overridden, the bill becomes law as well, and everyone must follow it. So that's the process of how a bill becomes a law. A lot of information. Make sure that you took good notes. Go back and review this if you need to. And with that, we're going to sign off.